The music industry harbors secrets that would shake you to your foundation. Today we dive deep into one of entertainment's most puzzling relationships between Justin Bieber and Eddie Benjamin, a young Australian musician who somehow gained unprecedented influence over one of the world's biggest pop stars. Eddie Benjamin's story begins in Sydney, Australia, where music ran through his family like electricity through copper wire. His mother earned her living as a professional dancer, gracefully moving through performances that captivated audiences across the city. Meanwhile, his father kept the beat as a touring drummer, filling their home with rhythms and melodies that would ultimately shape their son's extraordinary destiny. Growing up surrounded by instruments and constant artistic expression, Eddie absorbed musical knowledge with an intensity that bordered on supernatural. He developed an almost mystical connection to sound that would later mesmerize global superstars. The Benjamin household wasn't just a home but a conservatory where creativity flowed freely and talent was nurtured from the earliest age. At 14 years old, Eddie transformed from curious teenager into performing sensation. He began taking stages at Sydney's underground music venues with confidence that defied his youth. These dimly lit clubs became his musical university, teaching him essential skills like reading crowd energy, controlling atmosphere, and creating memorable moments that lingered long after performances ended. During his high school years, Eddie formed the Hayes Trio alongside classmates who shared his musical passion. Even within this talented group, Eddie's abilities stood out remarkably. He possessed skills that seemed to transcend conventional musical boundaries, hinting at the extraordinary path that awaited him in the entertainment industry. Eddie's musical abilities defied easy categorization. He possessed a rare gift allowing him to play multiple instruments while simultaneously creating complex harmonic sounds with his voice. This unique talent produced melodies that seemed to originate from another dimension entirely. Such exceptional skills naturally caught attention from established artists, leading to collaborations with major names including Meghan Trainor, Earth, Wind and Fire, and Shawn Mendes. Despite these impressive credits, Eddie remained largely unknown to mainstream audiences. He preferred working behind the scenes where his influence could grow without public scrutiny or media interference. This strategic positioning would later prove crucial when opportunity came knocking in the form of global superstardom. Everything changed dramatically in 2022 when destiny arranged a fateful meeting between Eddie and Justin Bieber during the Justice Tour. What began as a simple opening act opportunity quickly evolved into something far more complex and controversial. Justin, renowned for his talent recognition abilities, immediately sensed something extraordinary in the young Australian performer. Their musical chemistry proved instant and undeniable. They created a creative bond that transcended typical artist collaborations and ventured into territory that made industry observers deeply uncomfortable. The connection between Eddie and Justin resembled legendary musical partnerships throughout history, but with modern complications that previous generations never had to navigate. They spent countless hours in recording studios crafting sounds that seemed to flow directly from shared consciousness. Justin began publicly calling Eddie the next generation of music, praising his abilities while their private friendship deepened beyond normal professional boundaries. This relationship dynamic raised eyebrows throughout Hollywood's inner circles. If you're finding these revelations as shocking as we are, make sure to subscribe because this story gets even more explosive as we continue uncovering the truth about this controversial friendship. Behind this musical partnership lurked an influential figure whose involvement would prove both beneficial and deeply controversial. Sia, the enigmatic Australian singer, had already raised eyebrows throughout Hollywood with her protective instincts toward young talent. Her methods of mentorship often crossed traditional boundaries in ways that made industry insiders uncomfortable. Eddie's entry into Sia's world came through his romantic relationship with Maddie Ziegler, the talented dancer who had become Sia's surrogate daughter through circumstances many found questionable. Sia's immediate adoption of Eddie as her Australian son followed a familiar pattern that had become her signature approach throughout the entertainment industry. She identified vulnerable young artists and systematically inserted herself into their lives as a maternal figure. Sia offered Eddie housing, guidance, and protection, but observers wondered about the true cost of such arrangements. The living situation placed Eddie directly under Sia's influence during the most crucial period of his career development. The dynamics within Sia's household created complex webs of dependencies that extended far beyond normal mentorship relationships. Eddie lived under the same roof as Maddie while Sia maintained control over both their personal and professional decisions. This arrangement continued even after Eddie's romantic relationship with Maddie ended, suggesting that Sia's interest in Eddie transcended his connection to her primary protégé. When Eddie began collaborating with Justin Bieber, the relationship dynamics shifted dramatically and visibly. Justin's fascination with Eddie's talents grew into something that close observers described as genuinely obsessive. Their studio sessions extended into all-night creative marathons, with Justin hanging on Eddie's every musical suggestion and treating his opinions as absolute gospel truth. The Australian musician had somehow achieved what many industry veterans never could: complete creative influence over one of the world's biggest pop stars. This level of control seemed to develop overnight, leaving many wondering about the true nature of their connection and Eddie's methods of persuasion. The release of Justin's latest album showcased Eddie's unprecedented involvement throughout the project. His name appeared as co-writer on 11 of the 21 tracks, a level of collaboration that industry insiders found suspicious. Many whispered that Eddie's contributions went far beyond typical collaborative work, with some suggesting he had essentially ghostwritten much of Justin's recent material. The album's chaotic release process, marked by last-minute changes and incomplete writing credits, only fueled speculation about the true extent of Eddie's creative control. Industry professionals began questioning whether Justin was still the primary creative force behind his own music or had become dependent on his young collaborators' input. Eddie's influence over Justin became increasingly visible to everyone around them. Friends and industry professionals noticed how Justin's attention shifted away from his usual collaborators toward the young Australian who seemed to possess an almost hypnotic effect on the established pop star. Their public interactions displayed intimacy that many found inappropriate for a married man. Eddie began receiving levels of affection and attention that Justin rarely showed his own wife. This shift in priorities became a source of constant speculation among entertainment industry insiders who witnessed their interactions at private events and public appearances. The situation reached concerning levels during recent public appearances where witnesses described scenes that challenged normal friendship boundaries. At exclusive industry events, Justin's behavior toward Eddie crossed lines that made onlookers genuinely uncomfortable. He displayed physical affection that seemed excessive, treating Eddie with attention typically reserved for romantic partners rather than creative collaborators. Hailey Bieber's reaction to her husband's relationship with Eddie revealed the strain this unusual dynamic placed on their marriage. Sources close to the couple reported visible tension whenever Eddie entered any situation. Hailey's discomfort became increasingly apparent at public events where she watched her husband lavish attention on his collaborator while seemingly ignoring her presence entirely. The stark contrast between Justin's animated interactions with Eddie and his distant behavior toward his wife created widespread speculation about his true priorities. Many began questioning whether Justin's marriage could survive the intense focus he placed on his musical collaborator. The entertainment industry buzzed with theories about the unusual dynamic between these three individuals. Some suggested that Eddie had become Justin's creative lifeline, providing inspiration and musical direction that the pop star desperately needed to remain relevant in an increasingly competitive market. Others wondered whether their relationship had evolved beyond professional collaboration into territory that threatened Justin's marriage and carefully constructed public image. The intensity of their connection seemed to transcend normal creative partnerships in ways that made many observers deeply uncomfortable. Before we reveal the most shocking details about how this relationship continues to evolve, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because what comes next will completely change how you view celebrity friendships forever. Eddie's own public comments about Justin revealed the profound depth of his admiration for the pop star. He described Justin's musical abilities with reverence typically reserved for religious figures, using language that suggested their connection transcended normal creative partnerships. This intense admiration, combined with Justin's obvious dependence on Eddie's creative input, created dynamics that industry professionals found genuinely troubling. The timing of Eddie's rise to prominence coincided with noticeable changes in Justin's behavior and overall musical direction. The pop star, who had previously maintained professional distance from his collaborators, suddenly seemed unable to function creatively without Eddie's constant presence and approval. Their public appearances together increased dramatically, with Eddie becoming a fixture in Justin's life that rivaled the presence of his own family members. This level of integration into Justin's personal world raised questions about professional boundaries and the sustainability of such intense relationships. Industry observers noted the unprecedented access that Eddie enjoyed to Justin's entire creative process. Unlike previous collaborators who worked on specific projects before moving on to other artists, Eddie had embedded himself into Justin's artistic identity, becoming an essential component of the pop star's musical DNA. This level of influence raised serious questions about the sustainability of such an intense creative relationship and its potential long-term impact on Justin's other personal and professional relationships. Many wondered whether this dependency was healthy for either party involved. The controversy surrounding Eddie's role in Justin's life extended beyond mere gossip, touching on deeper questions about influence, dependency, and the increasingly blurred lines between creative collaboration and personal manipulation in the modern entertainment industry. Critics wondered whether Eddie's meteoric rise from unknown opening act to Justin's most trusted collaborator represented genuine talent recognition or something more calculated and concerning. The speed of his ascension seemed to defy normal industry progression patterns. As this story continues unfolding, the entertainment world watches carefully to see whether this unconventional partnership will produce continued creative success or ultimately implode under the weight of its own intensity. The stakes couldn't be higher for everyone involved. Justin's marriage, career trajectory, and public image all hang in the balance of his relationship with the enigmatic Australian musician who somehow managed to become the most influential person in his world. The outcome of this unusual dynamic will likely have lasting consequences for all parties involved. The Eddie Benjamin phenomenon represents more than just another Hollywood friendship gone wrong. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked influence in an industry where vulnerability and talent often intersect in potentially dangerous ways. Whether Eddie proves to be Justin's creative salvation or his ultimate downfall remains to be seen, but one thing is absolutely certain. The young Australian has rewritten the rules of celebrity collaboration in ways that will have lasting consequences for everyone involved. This story is far from over, and the explosive revelations that continue emerging promise to reshape our understanding of power dynamics in the modern music industry forever.